Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. Now in this video I'm going to showcase my Stamina Necromancer PvP build called Corruption. This is designed for the current patch, and with all of my build videos, they're just to the point but are packed full of information, so I'd recommend that you watch the entire thing so you don't miss anything. And what's more, I've been testing my Stamcro extensively and I've made many changes to the gear a few times, and I kind of found the most rounded build that I enjoy the most. So I'm going to share that with you today, but I will include other setups as well. And don't panic, like all of my builds, they work in Battlegrounds, Cyrodiil, with and without CP as well as duels. And before we jump in, if you haven't guessed it yet, this channel is all about helping you get better with next level builds, guides and gameplay, so why not start improving today by subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's look at that Stamcro Corruption. As for my race, I am a Nord on this build. I use a Nord for more defense, a bit of max stam and some health, and I always get more ult gem, which is really nice as the necro ults are quite expensive. I then pair this with the warrior for more damage, or the tower for more damage and sort of max stamina to help sustain. Alternatively, you could use the serpent for things like Battlegrounds as well. If you are an orc, a dark elf or a Khajiit, you could use this build too. You just need to use the lady Mundus for defense, or you could go back to the warrior and tower for damage and heals, or use the serpent if you need more sustain. And it's exactly the same for Redguard too, but instead of using the serpent, just use the lady, warrior or tower. As for those consumables, I use Juberous Cameroon Throne. It's a really good set. It's basically max health, max stam and stam recovery, dirt cheap, highly recommend it. You could use things like Pack Leader Broth as well, it's just a bit expensive. All in all, I find Dubious is kind of the best jack of all trades for this kind of build. As for those potions, I would use Tri-Stat potions for this, or Essence of Immovability. Both are great potions. And poisons wise, I don't use any poisons, but you could use poisons if you wish. There is options there. I would use double dot poisons or stand still poisons, which are really good. As for those skills, on the front spell we're using a 2H, so we're rocking with Dizzying Swing. This is a really good skill. It hits stupidly hard. It's got a snare if you use it twice, it's got a stun if you use it twice, it's got a stun if you medium weave with it, and as I said, it just hits stupidly hard. Highly recommend using this skill, pairs really well with Blighted Blastbones. Little tip for those people struggling with this: if you get into the range of 7 meters and you kind of start to highlight the skill so you can now use it, move forward a little bit and just spin left or right. So you want to kind of stay on the edge of the range of the skill and just spin, because it's easier to track your target. And if they move back, you move back with them, but you always want to spin left or right. It makes it harder for them to hit you, but it makes it easier for you to hit them. So just a really good way of using that skill. Our second one, as I've said, is Blighted Blastbones. This is absolutely crazy. It's got like stupid damage. It's as much as our ultimate basically, which is just ridiculous. It's got Mage Defile. It's like a delayed burst ability like Subterranean Assault, but it auto homes, it rarely misses, it's AoE Defile. It's just really strong this patch. We then use Executioner, which is a really good skill. It's an execute. It scales up stupidly high. Highly recommend this morph, but you could use Reverse Slice if you prefer for an AoE splash damage. We then use Rally on this build because we're in medium armor. That just gives us a big burst deal when we need it. It gives us stam sustain. I then have a flex spot which I kind of change out as I need, whether it's Cyrodiil, CP, Battlegrounds, so on. You get the idea. I generally use Camo Hunter or Vigor in this kind of a lot of the time. Vigor is really nice for having that kind of heal over time on the front bar when you need it. Camo Hunter for a bit more damage, which is always good. I also use Hexproof in CP Cyrodiil as well, so that way if I'm being pressured I can just get rid of some of those dots, some of those kind of negative effects. So there's a really good skill there. So in case you've missed that, it's Camo Hunter, Vigor or Hexproof. As for the ultimate, we have two options. I like Dawnbreaker personally, because when it's a bit laggy, it's an AoE, so you can just cast it if you're not locked onto a target. So it means it's just easier to land in laggy situations. But Onslaught does work better for kind of one-on-one single target damage. It just absolutely nukes somebody and makes Blastbones hit people for like 10 to 12k. It's absolutely disgusting. But as I said, both are really good skills. As for those backbar skills, guys, we're using Summoner's Armor. This is a really good skill. It basically gives you just stam sustain because your skills are cheaper to use. So really good there. You could use Beckoning Armor though for a ranged pull. This is really funny against kind of bow ganks and that kind of stuff. They hit you, you pull them to you, and you just nuke them. It's hilarious. I then use a Venom Arrow for my ranged interrupt, and it also procs our weapon glyph, which is always nice. But that ranged interrupt is incredibly helpful in Cyrodiil and in BGs when people are resurrecting. And it does a bit of damage. You can kind of use it as a ranged execute as well. Light attack, push that skill, bit of damage there, you might get a cheeky kill here or there. So good skill. I then use Spirit Guardian for a heal over time, but the main thing is the damage reduction. It's got 10% damage reduction. It's like having Swift on at all times. Really, really good skill there. I then use a heal, and this heal varies depends on where I use Vigor. If I have Vigor on my front bar, I'll then obviously use Mortal Coil instead on the back bar. So the idea is that you'd have Vigor here, or you have Mortal Coil here. If Vigor's on the front bar, then you put Mortal Coil here. If Vigor's not on the front bar, you put Vigor here as well. Vigor is obviously a heal over time. If you did use Mortal Coil, it's a heal over time for you. It's not massive, but it's pretty good. And it's more the stam sustain, which is nice. It's about an extra 100 to 200 stam sustain, which is always helpful. And then our next skill is Elude Stroke Shuffle. I really like Elude for speed and just getting around the battlefield. So if you're unaware, if you get hit with an AoE, it gives you like major expedition. So it's like 30% movement speed for like 5 seconds. And it procs pretty much all the time, especially in Serial, so really good skill there. The problem is when it doesn't proc, you really notice it and you end up dying quite quickly. So just do factor that in. And Shuffle is also a good option too, because you get snare immunity as well. As I said, both are really good because you get major evasion, you either get snare immunity from Shuffle or you get movement speed from Elude. Alternatively, if you do have Black Rose Dual Wield and you're after a bit of cheese, which is just like really, really OP, use Quick Cloak. It's absolutely busted. It's major expedition, it's major evasion, and it's major protection. If you have Black Rose Dual Wield for one skill, which is like 1900 stamina, it's absolutely overtuned. And then for the ultimate, we use Temporal Guard. This is really good if you're playing solo or in like heavy outnumbered situations, just for a bit more bulk to get around sort of kiting and so on. But you could use the Colossus for AoE ult dumps, which just absolutely melts people. Now for my CP guys, it's all min-max like all of my builds. It's optimised to give you the most rounded damage whilst taking the least amount of damage as possible in all areas. The green CP is optimised for this playstyle, but you can change it if you want. So if you're unaware, it's that kind of in and out, hit hard, get out if you need to with the high movement speed thanks to Elude, but you also have some bulk because we're a Nord and we've got Bloodspawn, as you can obviously guess. So yeah, really, really good setup there. Now to that question, should I be a werewolf, should I be a vampire? Vampire looks so cool, and there isn't much advantage to it, to be honest. The problem with vampire and werewolf is that our skill bars are pretty full as they are, and we don't really gain many useful passives other than like regen and mitigation and that kind of stuff. And yes, there are some cool skills and passives, but I don't think they're essential. So in all honesty, I'll stay as a human for this build, but you could consider vampire, try it, see how it goes. Obviously it's got new skills and stuff, which is really cool, but each to their own. Now, before we look at the armour and stuff, I noticed that many of you, yes, you at home watching right now, are not subscribed to the channel. If you want to stay up to date with the latest builds, guides and gameplay, then make sure that you are subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's get back to the video. Now the part that people always skip to, and I've been guilty of this myself, but I would honestly recommend watching the bits before because it will help you understand this build and do better on it. So if you have skipped it, obviously go back and do that, but anyway, I use Bloodspawn as my monster set. This is arguably the best monster set this patch. I use a heavy piece and a light piece for my Undaunted passives, but you could go heavy and heavy if you don't have those. I then use Impenetrable on them too, and I use Tri-Stat, head and stamina, shoulders. I then have two sets, and the composition is kind of up to you in all honesty, but I'd recommend this way, it's a bit easier to get this way, okay? I use New Moon chest, legs and hands, and a New Moon 2H. And a 2H is a maul. The maul is hands on the best you can get. New Moon is such a good set. It's a crafted set as well, so easy to get. And it just hits really, really hard. I then pair this with Bone Pirate for the sustain and the max stamina that you lack if you use New Moon. New Moon's really guilty of giving you low stat pools, so like low max stamina. So we fix that with Bone Pirate and it gives us sustain, which means we can go all infused jewelry and hit really, really hard, but also have good sustain and good max stamina, which is obviously perfect for my playstyle. On the back bar then, just to get even more damage, I use a Master's Bow with Venom Arrows, so it hits stupidly hard. It's like an extra 300-400 weapon damage you don't see on the build. And as I said, you could use the Black Rose Dual Wield if you want with Quick Cloak. There's some options in the skills, or you could use Blessing with Potentates if you don't have any of those things there. And I'll probably go for Sword and Shield then, but you could go for Bow if you really want. And as I've said earlier, I've actually gone through and I've tested like 4 or 5 different setups. So I'll kind of go through quickly what the other ones are and just their advantages and disadvantages, okay? Now for the other setups that I've said that I've tested and they do work really well, New Moon and Ancient Dragon Guard with Bloodspawn is incredibly good. The problem is that you need to have obviously purple jewelry to make it viable in all honesty. And so yes, I have got purple jewelry, I've got purple New Moon jewelry, which is really, really good, but it's so expensive, so I wouldn't recommend it. If you can afford it though, it's definitely worth trying, and I would make the jewellery New Moon if you can, because you can use it on other builds. The second setup I've tried is New Moon plus Essence Thief, and I sometimes switched it out for Shieldbreaker or Spriggans. They all kind of give you the similar sort of result. You get good damage, good sort of sustain, good heals. I found Essence Thief gave you the best sustain overall out of those options there, where the other two just gave you like loads and loads of damage, but in all honesty I found the sustain just a bit too low in that kind of setup. And that's also true for New Moon and Fury, which is currently meta. New Moon and Fury is just like stupidly high weapon damage, so you have crazy heals, crazy damage, but you're very reliant on heavy attacks for sustain, and that's the playstyle I don't like. I like being able to move around, roll, get in and out, that kind of stuff, and for me having to kind of be a bulky brawler is not my playstyle. Now combos and tips and tricks and so on that I've got from playing it extensively are as followed. For your offensive combo there's like 3 or 4 different options. So the first thing you want to do is buff up, and that's on all of them. That basically means put on your armor buff, put on your spirit guardian, so you've got some defense basically if things go south. If you're using the master's bow, then you kind of got 2 options there. You basically go with venom arrow, light attack, and you swap bar. You then go with blast bones and you move towards the target. As you're getting closer and closer to the target, you then charge your dizzy and swing, and you do a medium weave. So as dizzy and swing is obviously doing this animation, you hold the attack button for about half a second, let dizzy and swing land, and then let go of the attack button, and it will do the medium animation, which will stun them and knock them on the floor, plus hit them really hard. Blast bones then jumps on top of them, and that just like melts people, puts magic defile on them, and you just execute them if they're really low. Or you do dizzy and swing, executioner, and block, and that's like combo 1, which just basically one-shot somebody most of the time without an ultimate, which is just crazy. Option 2 is obviously with an ultimate, which is just even worse. So you buff up like before, so Spirit Guardian, Armor, so on. If Master's Bow, use Venom Arrow and swap bar. You then go to Blast Bones, Dizzy and Swing, and you go to your ultimate, then Medium Weave. So what you want to do is try and get your ultimate to land. So if you use an Onslaught, that will give you the penetration. Then Medium Weave will then knock them on the floor whilst you have your penetration up, which means Blast Bones hits for 100% penetration. Your Executioner will hit for 100% penetration when you follow up with that. You just one-shot people. And if you have Dawnbreaker, well, you've just knocked them on the floor anyway, so you can just go for a second Dizzy and Swing and execute, and they're dead. So that's combo 1, combo 2, and in combo 3, which I like if you're not using a bow, you basically buff up, Dizzy and Swing, Blast Bones, Dizzy and Swing, and then you do a light attack, Executioner. This one works really well because you don't have to do that medium weave if you find it a bit hard to kind of land that stun from the Dizzy and Swing medium weave thing. As for defensive sort of play, tips and that good stuff, what I would recommend doing is that you've got 3 options in all honesty, and you need to kind of play it by ear, if that makes sense. So you've got Spirit Guardian, which is like a heal over time plus damage mitigation. You've got Roll Dodge Vigor, so if you do a Roll Dodge and push Vigor at the same time, you'll get obviously loads of heals. So you generally go Vigor, then push a Roll Dodge, and you will heal as you're rolling, which is a really good way to get out of trouble. And you've got Rally for like your burst heal. So what you need to do is kind of check which one do I need to do in all honesty, and I've got a few tips on how to kind of read the situation better. And of course you could always chuck in a cheeky stun or 2, which I do quite often to get some reprieve. So the first thing I do is, if I'm really low, like I'm about to die, I'm in execute range, and my rally's kind of ready to go, just push rally, get back to full health, or a potion. If I'm not quite there, and I'm going, okay, I'm low, but I'm not at say 20% health, about 40% health, I might do like a Roll Dodge Vigor. So that will work really well, so that way I heal myself up and get out of the way. And I've got medium health, I might just go for my Spirit Guardian and Vigor, so I take less damage and I've got some hots on me, and I'll go offensively to try and kill them quickly because they're probably going to forget their buffs. And that's normally how you sort of switch the fight. You kind of move out the way, heal, turn around and nuke the person really quick. And with all of those things, you could check out a cheeky Blast Bones in the middle because it's delayed and it's automatic. So that way, whilst they're hitting you and you're healing and rolling and stuff, they get attacked by Blast Bones, which puts them on the defensive, gives you a second or 2 to kind of recover, get around the corner if you need to, get some stamina back, chucking a heavy attack, you get the idea. Now, before we wrap the video up, guys, I want to say a big shout out to all of our Patreons. They're like literally single-handedly helping obviously make YouTube a reality, so obviously helping the website, helping the channel, helping me kind of make time to do the videos and stuff, so it's really appreciated. And if you do want to support myself or the channel, obviously check the description, there's a link to our Patreon, and we will be offering YouTube memberships very soon as well, where you can support that way as well. So there's loads of options to get involved to help us out if you want to, but you don't have to. And with that said, guys, I would like to wrap the video up here. It's been long enough as it is, so I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, take care, and bye!